Hello folks, this is Pastor Mike Hoggard, pastor of Bethel Church in Festus, Missouri, and head of prophetic research ministry with another Watchman video broadcast. I brought something with me today that I don't know if you ever noticed, but I usually keep this just kind of over to the side. I'm used to carrying this thing around, and I'm going to talk about this for just a minute, here in just a few minutes. I hold in my hand a computer. Now, some say, well, that's a cell phone. This is actually a computing device. I remember the first computer I had back in, way back in 1982. The very first computer I had. Before that, I was starting to become fascinated with the idea of having my own computer. You see, I grew up in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And during the 70s, I can remember watching a Disney film called The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes. And it was about, interestingly enough, it was about a young man that, I can't remember exactly the movie, but it had something to do with the computer lab of this university in California. All these movies are made in California. And but anyway, he worked in this computer lab, and all of a sudden he was like melded in, or this computer had joined with him somehow, and he just was this fantastic brain. He could think like a computer. And if you remember back from the 70s, these computers filled up entire buildings, just for these one computers. I watched a movie that I had not seen in years last night called Tron. And I think there's like a remake or a sequel of that coming out here before too long. This came out in 1982. Here again, another Disney movie. And it showed basically a man being pulled into the computer world and doing battle against the evil, the central, whatever it was, the main program that ran all of the other things, like the computer Antichrist is what it was. 1982 was about the year that I had my first computer. Now, I had read things on it, seen these movies, been dazzled by TV shows and science fiction, and I remember getting my very first Commodore VIC-20 computer. And I was amazed at this thing. Here it was, a computer in my room, and I could tell it to do things. And I remember I had envisioned at that time being able to take massive whole encyclopedias and typing them in article by article into my computer, storing it in there, and then being able to ask my Commodore VIC-20 computer any simple question, and it would ding, 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 and come up with the answer for it. Well, my Commodore VIC-20 had a whopping 3.5 kilobytes of memory. And it stored all of the data back then on a little cassette tape. And it took forever to load one of these programs in. You had to press play on the tape, and boy, you just had to wait. And so I didn't quite see my dream quite fulfilled of what I thought a computer should be. I remember years later, finally I could get a disk drive, one of those floppy disk drives. $300 I paid for this thing. And then I remember seeing it in a computer magazine. I could buy a 1 megabyte hard drive for my Commodore 64 computer. See, I upgraded. And I was going, 1 million bytes. This is amazing. The very first IBM style PC I owned was somewhere around 1992, 1993, something like that, preloaded with Windows 3.1. An 85 megabyte hard drive and 2 megabytes of memory, and I thought I was in heaven. We've progressed a lot in this world since then, and I now hold in my hand a computer. And this computer, if I remember right, this is a Samsung Jack, and I think it operates at about 300 to 400 megahertz, which, our average desktop PC is blazingly faster than that, but not bad for a small handheld device. But this computer operates somewhere around 300 times faster than the Commodore VIC-20 I had. It has somewhere in the neighborhood of about 2,000 or 2,000 megabytes more memory than my Commodore VIC-20 had, more storage ability, more computing power, more software than I ever had, more programs. And I finally have the ability right here in the palm of my hand to load up the internet. I got Internet Explorer here, and I can load that up if I got a Wi-Fi signal somewhere. And I can ask the internet any question that I want. And through the millions of interconnected computers all across the world, I can get an answer to that. I can find out exactly where I'm at using Google Maps on here, and the triangulation that cell phones are, you know, they're like the little coordinate things, and find out exactly where I am anywhere on the globe. This is absolutely amazing, the technology that we hold in the palm of our hand that we actually take for granted. We've come a long, long way since 1982 when I had my first computer, and it's just absolutely amazing. I can make telephone calls, all of which is done digitally. You see, the computer takes my voice and turns it into numbers, zeros and ones, and transmit it through a wireless signal. I can receive messages from, oh, here's one from my wife, a text message. Can't ignore that for too long. But anyway, this is the technology, and this is old stuff already. I mean, this phone's about a year old, 2 years old, something like that. And it's already ancient stuff. We're going to talk about technology. We're going to talk about something called the singularity in this broadcast. And I want you to understand, if we have progressed this far in this world as far as electronics is concerned, where are we going in the very near future? We're seemingly changing like every 6 months. We're doubling our knowledge of the universe. So I want to read some articles, and we're going to talk about what's called the singularity in this broadcast. And here is an article that somebody sent me, and this is really what got me going with this. So if you sent me this, I appreciate it. And I'm just going to kind of read this article through because I think it has some very interesting things that we need to look at. The article is called, from PC World, it's called Better Living Through Implants. Imagine if you could learn to fly a helicopter by downloading software directly to your brain. You know, we saw that in the movie The Matrix. Imagine if your eyes could see an object overlaid with data miles away in the dark. These science fiction scenes from The Matrix and the Terminator movies may be less fictional in the future thanks to the fascinating science behind medical implants. Interdisciplinary teams of surgeons, research engineers, computer scientists are creating complex electronics designed to work within the human body to simulate human functions. Today's bionic technology helps people suffering from disease or disability and may pave the way to a future where the blind can see and the deaf can hear. Researchers have achieved breakthroughs in medical science, but the level of improvement these advances offer doesn't approach the level of typical human sight, sound, thought, or movement. But implants are getting better, faster, and smaller. And experts say that they could be used to augment healthy human performance within 5 to 10 years. A look at the current research in medical implants shows not only unprecedented potential for curing diseases, but also, and here's the word right here, a new paradigm for understanding human potential. Now stop right here. That word is seen, I don't have a copy of it here, that word is seen in Marilyn Ferguson's Aquarian Conspiracy. The new paradigm is something that you'll see in the Purpose-Driven Life movie. You'll see in the New Emerging Church. This whole concept of a new paradigm or a paradigm shift is something that we're seeing everywhere. We're seeing it in corporate logos. We're seeing it in advertising, marketing. We're seeing it in the church nowadays. All of a sudden, everybody is talking about in different ways and in different styles, but they're all talking about some sort of transformation that's going to take place. A new paradigm, a shift in the way that humans exist. The article talks about having bionic eyes. I don't know if you remember the $6 Million Man. He had bionic eyes. We're on the verge now of creating an interface between the human eye and the brain that would allow people with faulty eyes not only to see, but we're also on the verge of allowing people who can see normally the ability to see beyond human limits. This is where we're headed. The article talks about brain-computer interfaces, giving people who cannot speak the ability to speak. Brain implants, body implants, the article talks about. Performance-enhancing body implants, so that there is a fusion of technology and humanity. This is part of what is known as the Singularity. Now, I'm going to read you an article about what the Singularity is and what it involves. And I know not everybody is technically minded. I kind of am, but there's some things that I don't get. I mean, I use technology. I mean, I'm using my cell phone here. I'm using a microphone here hooked into a digital camera. This camera is taking my image and my sound, and it's converting it into zeros and ones. And when I get done, I'm going to take this and download it into my computer. Well, let's see, that would be uploading. I would upload it into my computer so I can edit it. And then when we're done, I'm going to put it on a digital versatile disk, or I'm going to transmit it digitally to the internet so that you can get on your digital interface device, which is a computer, and watch what I'm doing here in our secret broadcasting compound. We are using technology everywhere, but this technology and people's understanding of what we're able to do with the smallest and simplest devices is growing exponentially. And it's leading to the part of human evolution that they call the Singularity. Let's look at this article. What is the Singularity, and will you live to see it? If you read any science fiction or futurism, you've probably heard people using the term singularity to describe the world of tomorrow. But what exactly does it mean, and where does the idea come from? We answer in today's Backgrounder. The term singularity describes a moment when a civilization changes so much that its rules and technology are incomprehensible to previous generations. Think of it as a point of no return in history. Here again, a paradigm shift. Most thinkers believe the singularity will be jump-started by extremely rapid technological and scientific changes. These changes will be so fast and so profound that every aspect of our society will be transformed, from our bodies and families to our governments. Remember, we are living in an age right now where we have a president who campaigned on the idea of transformation, fundamentally transforming the United States of America. We're looking at churches now that are promising transformation to everybody, and these are usually outside of the cross of Jesus Christ. We're living in a world right now where we can literally see the transformation of everything in this world into a completely new world order. That's what the singularity represents. The article goes on to say a good way to understand the singularity is to imagine explaining the internet to somebody living in the year 1200. Your frames of reference would be so different that it would be almost impossible to convey how the internet works, let alone what it means to our society. You are on the other side of what seems like a singularity to our person from the Middle Ages, but from the perspective of a future singularity, we are the medieval ones. Advances in science and technology mean that singularities might happen over periods much shorter than 800 years. Talking about the singularity is a paradox because it is an attempt to imagine something that is by definition unimaginable to people in the present day. But that hasn't stopped hundreds of science fiction writers and futurists from doing it. Where does the term singularity come from? Science fiction writer Werner Vinge popularized the idea of the singularity in his 1993 essay, Technological Singularity. There he described the singularity in this way. It is a point where our old models must be discarded and a new reality rules. As we move closer to this point, it will loom vaster and vaster over human affairs